Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that I've been looking at, I try to look at the statistics, and I know that what I did previously, it was in the automobile business, and we always looked at markets, and we looked at markets that were available to us, and then we kind of looked at the definitions, and then we looked at the statistics, but they only mattered if they were actually accurate and they actually had some type of credibility. And my questions come on the green jobs energy or initiative, and I'm trying to understand. And Dr. Hall, does BLS not count blue-collar jobs or white-collar jobs, but the BLS was asked to begin counting green jobs. Now, do you believe the BLS was asked to begin counting green jobs for political reasons?
I think it was for policy reasons. I think there was a good deal of interest in green occupations, and I think there was clearly going to be some policy, at least policy debates on the issue.
And I understand that. So in order to give credibility to the policy, then we had to come up with metrics that made sense. So when you talk about green jobs that were created, do you think we've actually done a great job with that? Has it been a positive ROI?
Well, I think part of the issue is that BLS was not trying to feed into a particular policy. It didn't have policies in mind. And they took two approaches, looking at green industries and then green occupations. I think part of the problem is those two things get mixed. But what they were trying to do is they were trying to be helpful. We were trying to be helpful. We were trying to make a definition, a fairly broad definition, so that people could use this data. People could even make up their own definitions of green jobs. There were 1 million definitions around, and use the data to piece together their own definitions and use that for policy.
But I understand that. But whenever you change the definition of what a person's doing, right, and you game it or shade it so that the answer that you're looking for can be supported by data that you very, very carefully craft to come up with the answer that you want. And that's the problem that I have with this. I'm trying to understand if we're really looking to develop policies or develop the future of the country and say, boy, there's a great jobs market out there. And a guy that drove a bus before, if he went from driving a regular fuel bus to a propane bus, we created a green job. We didn't create a job. We just shifted a person from one category to another. And I think for people like me, I think you want to see some type of positive return on your investment. And I get the feeling that a lot of that we're looking at was a policy that, while it was well-intended, hasn't really created the jobs that the administration thought it would create. And I have no problem with that. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. The only thing is I just didn't keep on that path if I thought it was wrong. And the reason I couldn't do it is because I was using my own money. But this has been very bothersome to me. So tell me, how do you get from one position to another position and say, well, this supports what it is that we're doing? And that's I think, the problem that the American people have with this, because if we're truly talking about creating jobs, if we're talking about making an environment that's more conducive to creating jobs, this doesn't do it.
Right. Well, I think the first thing I'd like to say is one of the things I learned quickly when I was at the Bureau of Labor Statistics is you can produce the best data you want, the best data you can, and explain it, but you can't control how people use the data. They're going to use it however they want to use it. And that's just true with all BLS data. And in fact, my big goal was that we at least make sure that when people use the data, they know when they're using it wrong, even if they won't go ahead and use it wrong to begin with. So that's sort of an impossible thing for BLS to sort of control.
I can't do it. No, I can't do it. Ms. Roth, how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I'm an economist, so I don't feel. But looking at the numbers.
Well, let me put it this way: as an American taxpayer, because that's what we all are, regardless of whether you're sitting up here or you're sitting down there, we're responsible to the people that pay all these bills. It's the hardworking American taxpayers. So I got to tell you how I feel, and I feel at times that we are so separated from reality in this town. I need to know, okay, you use whatever term you want to use, but what is the result of this? Do we have any positive answers?
No. I think the whole concept doesn't make sense. For example, in the transportation area, buses and trains are green jobs, but taxis are not green jobs. But sometimes it makes more sense to be able to take a taxi rather than build an expensive rail line. Okay. So there isn't any point in adding any of these together. Yeah. Or science museums, for example, vis-a-vis another kind of museum. A science museum is a green job. Another kind of museum isn't a green job. The American people want just jobs. I don't think they mind if they're green. with unemployment over 12 million, with the unemployment rate above 8% for over 3 years in a row. We just need lots of regular jobs.
Yeah,
and we shouldn't worry about whether they're green, blue, red, whatever.
Yeah, well, we're looking for red, white, and blue jobs. It doesn't have to be any other color than that. So, and I appreciate your answers, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman.